Good afternoon. I am Principal Joseph Wood, and I would like to welcome you to Indian Trails annual Black History Month program. This is a time of the year that we get to recognize the many accomplishments of Black citizens in America and how they have helped to make America the great country that it is today. I would like to thank all of our students and staff members who have helped to make this presentation possible. We also would like to thank our special guest, Colonel Spears, for participating in today's program. Please enjoy, and we again thank you for coming and joining us in this celebration. Thank you.
Good morning, Indian Trail scholars and staff. During Black History Month, we have learned a lot of new information each day about famous Black people. Today we will learn about the events of Black Wall Street. Remember that Black history is American history. Thank you for being here today.
Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Woolridge, your school counselor, coming to introduce to you the narrators for our 2021 Black History Month program, which is focused on Black Wall Street. The first narrator is Adriana Duncan, and she is a fifth grader in Miss Cunningham's classroom. She has been at Indian Trail since the first grade, I believe, and she is in our Gifted and Talented program for leadership. Working alongside with her is Amaya Cooper, who also is in our Gifted and Talented leadership program. She too is a fifth grader at Indian Trail, and she came to us from Gilmore Lane. So these two young ladies will guide us through Black Wall Street as they have researched and seen. So enjoy the program.
Black Wall Street, Greenwood. Hello, Indian Trail, and welcome to the 2021 Black History Month program. This year, we will be taking you on a journey to learn about some historical facts that are not widely known. We will learn about Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street refers to the three communities that were built by Black entrepreneurs and other professionals that serviced the people and the needs of their communities. Black Wall Street refers to the communities of Greenwood and Tulsa, Oklahoma, Richmond, Virginia, and Durham, North Carolina. Today, we will primarily focus on the events that happened in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Black Wall Street, Greenwood. Many Blacks began moving to Tulsa in the late 1800s. By the early 1900s, the population swelled to 10,000 as many Blacks fled the Jim Crow laws of the South. The area they settled became known as Little Africa by whites in Tulsa. It was later called Negro Wall Street by Booker T. Washington, then Black Wall Street. Newly enacted segregation laws forbade whites and Blacks from traveling and shopping together. Racist zoning laws forbade Blacks and whites from living in close proximity to each other and doing business together. Because legally the races were separated, Blacks had to build their own city in order to have necessities such as banks, realtors, hospitals, schools, and postal services, among other necessary businesses and amenities at their disposal. Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street, Greenwood. Hello, Indian Trail, and welcome to the 2021 Black History Community. At its height, Greenwood business include numerous restaurants, barber and beauty salons, hospitals, law offices, realty companies, a school system, a bus line, which was sold to the city of Tulsa, 2 newspapers, cafes, drugstores, hotels, rooming houses, grocery stores, theaters, churches, and a private airport, as well as other haberdasheries, men's clothing and hats, and goods and service amenities.
Booming community. Now let's look at a short video clip about how booming and bustling community looked like in the 1920s.
Just how wealthy was Black Wall Street? Well, today we're going to find out.
The stories of Greenwood's prosperity became legend in the Black community, and in fact, in the whole world. The creation of the powerful Black community known as Black Wall Street was intentional. In 1906, O.W. Gurley, a wealthy African American from Arkansas, moved to Tulsa and purchased over 40 acres of land that he made sure was only sold to other African Americans. The young entrepreneur had just resigned from a presidential appointment under President Grover Cleveland in order to strike out on his own. Mr. Gurley became a multi-millionaire, and he was the owner of several businesses, including his prized possession, which was a hotel. He also provided an opportunity for those who migrated from the harsh oppression of Mississippi.
Another important visionary who contributed to the success of Black Wall Street was Mr. J.B. Stratford. J.B. Stratford had graduated from Indiana University with a law degree and had moved to Greenwood to purchase various land vacancies in the area. After buying these vacant spaces, he would then sell them to African American residents for redevelopment so that these empty spaces could be transformed into residential houses and profitable businesses. By 1921, Mr. Stratford had been considered one of the wealthiest in the country, as he owned numerous properties in Greenwood and even had his hotel named after him, the Stratford Hotel.
O.W. was a subscriber to the philosophies of Booker T. Washington, while J.B. was a follower of the more radical W.E.B. Du Bois.
Nonetheless, their differences aside, the two men began to develop an all-black district in the unincorporated stretch of land north of Tulsa's train station. O.W. and J.B. both became rich as the oil industry boomed in Tulsa and hundreds of African Americans immigrated to Greenwood.
The 40 acres that were purchased resulted in a thriving community that populated a 35 square block district.
There were over 600 businesses, and on Black Wall Street were attorneys, real estate agents, dentists, pilots, architects, musicians and singers, entrepreneurs, doctors, pharmacists, dry cleaners, plumbers, barbers, hairdressers, professors and teachers, nurses, bankers, newspaper editors, among many other professions who offered their services in the neighborhood.
A dollar circulated 36 to 100 times, and it remained in the Greenwood district almost a year before leaving. To this day, no other community has been able to duplicate that type of circulation. There are communities today, however, where the dollar stays in about 30 days and at 45 days, but no other community, as has been said, has ever been able to match that type of circulation.
Although it wasn't the only one, there were prominent black business districts in Durham, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, and Rosewood, Florida. The people of Greenwood achieved a level of black economic success and self-determination that had never existed before in the United States. Less than 60 years removed from slavery, to put that in perspective.
Despite racial discrimination and Jim Crow segregation, the Greenwood district offered proof that black entrepreneurs were capable of creating abundant wealth.
When left alone, our ancestors thrived. And one such example is this. In the entire state of Oklahoma, there were only 2 airports. Yet 6 black families owned their own private planes in the district of Black Wall Street. Wow, imagine that.
Folks, think about that for a second. There were 2 airports in the entire state of Oklahoma, yet 6 families own private planes. What an accomplishment. Many of the homes had indoor plumbing before those in the white areas did.
Booker T. Washington actually coined it Negro Wall Street.
It was also known at that time as Little Africa.
What made Black Wall Street truly special was that it was a place an ordinary person can go, such as a sharecropper, and have a respectable life, find decent paying work, and hope for a better life for his or her children. With oilmen relocating to Tulsa, the resulting high demand for domestics enabled blacks to attain unheard of wages. Maids earned $20 to $25 a week, chauffeurs earned $15, gardeners earned $20, janitors, shoe shiners, and porters earned around $10. Domestics made up almost 2/3 of Greenwood's population, the remainder being professionals and business owners, whom the maids and chauffeurs hoped their children could imitate one day. As you can see, Black Wall Street was very well-rounded.
Keep in mind, the domestics spoken of were actually blacks working for other blacks. The average income of black families in the area exceeded what the minimum wage is today. These were people who were actually living in the lap of luxury.
Black Wall Street was its own city. It was a booming self-contained community, and many of the residents lived in luxury. Greenwood Avenue had been lined with hotels, restaurants, furriers, and even an early taxi service using a Ford Model T. For that time, that would be like driving a modern-day Bentley.
This is actually a picture of the Stratford Hotel, owned by Mr. J.B. Stratford. And he is a great example of excellence and abundance in the early 1900s. As stated earlier, he was a multi-millionaire. In addition to Mr. Stratford and Mr. Gurley, the district's most successful entrepreneurs reinvested in the community, building parks, schools, churches, theaters, banks, and they had access to many luxuries that whites in the same city did not. As a matter of fact, white people routinely borrowed money from black banks, and this was even done during the Great Depression. Here's a picture of bank owners and employees taking a picture in front of one of the black-owned banks. Here's the picture of one of the theaters that lined the Greenwood district. During that time, while showing the silent movies, they would have a live piano player playing alongside the movie, which was the custom of the day. So you see, Black Wall Street had all of the modern day conveniences and luxuries. They were a community that really wanted for nothing. The schools were superior to those of the white areas. When the average student went to school on Black Wall Street, he wore a suit and tie because of the morals and respect they were taught at a young age. Black Wall Street contained a business college. As a matter of fact, the children of Greenwood's professionals attended Columbia Law School, Oberlin College, Hampton University, the Tuskegee Institute, Spelman College, and Atlanta University. Black Wall Street was a dream in progress and a symbol of black success. Just how wealthy was Black Wall Street? The truth is, we'll really never know. But based on the facts, we can confidently say that today's worth would be well into the billions. And just think, that was a self-contained community that was just developing. There is no telling where it would be today.
Although Greenswood, Tulsa, Oklahoma may be a distant memory, fortunately for us, we can still keep the Black Wall Street spirit alive today.
Booming community continued. As you can see, Black Wall Street of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma was a wonderful place for black people to go and thrive.
Booming community continued. Now let's hear from some of the entrepreneurs of that time.
And Oklahoma is a unique space in terms of the number of African American towns that were established. Some suggest upwards of 50 African American towns between 1924 and 1928. Reverend S.S. Jones was going around documenting this sort of self-determined, vibrant African American communities. You see the African American educators, doctors, lawyers, landowners, oil barons, and I think that's what's so remarkable about this footage. To think that individuals, how many years out of slavery, are now owning oil wells that are producing 2,000 barrels a day. Is that not the ultimate American dream? Is that not the ultimate American story? It flies in the face of what I think some people consider part of African American history and culture. And I think that that was one of the things that Oklahoma and what SS.
Hello, I am O.W. Gurley, who resigned from a presidential appointment under President Grover Cleveland. I purchased 4 acres of land in Tulsa, subdivided the land and built housing developments. I named it Greenwood after a town in Mississippi. I started the first black business in Greenwood in 1906. I am an entrepreneur and I had a vision to create something for black people by black people. I started with a boarding house for African Americans. Then I would loan money to people who wanted to start a business. I founded what is known today as Vernon AME Church. I built the Gurley Hotel, rooming houses for blacks fleeing the Sound, and the 2-story. Hello, we are the owners of St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. We are a fully functioning bank in Greenwood. We not only loan money to blacks, but also to whites and Native Americans. This picture is of the owners and tellers at the bank. We paid our people better than the minimum wage in 2021. Hello, we are the owners of St. Louis.
Hello everyone, I am Maggie Walker of Maggie Walker Financial Group. I am here next to the gentleman with other ladies that I have helped to start financial carriers. We loan money, make investments, and purchase property.
Hello, my name is Simon Berry, and I was a masterminded entrepreneur who owned a taxi service with the Model T, which in 2021 would be considered a luxury car like a Mercedes-Benz or a Bentley. The white taxi and buses did not want to serve blacks, so I created this system so that my people could still get around. By the time I sold my company to the city of Tulsa, I had 17 cars transporting people back and forth to their destinations.
Hello, I am T.W. Harris, and I am the owner and head pharmacist at Harris Prescription Laboratory. We could fill your prescription and have it ready for you without you having to leave the Greenwood community. I took pride in knowing my customers and making sure I met all of their prescription needs.
My name is Roy Johnson. I am the owner of Kelsey Sundry store. This is a corner store that could take care of all your needs. You could get magazines, comic books, candy as well. A selection of clothes and shoes. We were very proud to serve your community.
We are Caver's French beignets. We serve freshly made beignets and other pastries as well as coffee. We are the Williams family. My family owns multiple ventures. We are entrepreneurs and owners of the Williams Confectionery, a rooming house, the Dreamland Theater, automotive service, garage, and others. Our family business was booming until that dreadful day. Our theater showed the latest up-to-date movies, and at that time, movies did not have sound, so there was a live piano player in the theater that played as the movie played, just like the theater on the white side of town.
Good afternoon. I am E.W. Woods, the first principal of the all-black Booker T. Washington High School in 1913. I earned a reputation as the quintessential Tulsan for my leadership in the realm of public education. We were proud of our school and our scholars until that unlawful day in May 1921.
I am the owner of Man's Grocery Stores. Our customers could come here and get freshly cut meats, fresh fruits and vegetables, and all of their grocery needs. We were clean, organized, and ready to serve our community.
Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. A.C. Jackson. I was recognized as the most able Negro surgeon by the Mayo Brothers of the Mayo Clinic. I transcended the color line, serving both white and colored patients. I had one of the best medical practices in the United States until that awful day.
Well, hello there. I am Mabel B. Little, and my husband, Presley Little, and I are entrepreneurs and owners of a popular beauty salon, several rental properties, and the Bell Cafe. We are the proud parents of 11 adopted children.
Hello, I am A.J. Schneiderman, a publisher whose family moved to Indian Territory in the 1890s. I founded the Tulsa Star, a black newspaper that covered local, state, and national news and elections. The Tulsa Star headquarters were located in Greenwood. This paper was instrumental in establishing the district's socially cautious mindset. It kept African Americans informed about their legal rights and aware of any court ruling or legislations that were beneficial or harmful to our community.
Hello, I'm Mr. Carter, and my barber shop was one of the many businesses in the Greenwood district. You could come and get your haircut, mustache trim, and beard groom. Outside of the shop, you could even get your dress shoes shine.
Segregation and Jim Crow. It shall be unlawful for any colored person to move into and occupy as a residence or place of abode any house in any block situated within the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, upon which 75% of residents occupying said block are white people. It shall be unlawful for any colored person to establish and maintain a hotel, rooming house, or place of public assembly upon any block in or more said city upon which 75% of the residents, roomers, guests, or boarders in such block are white persons.
Segregation and Jim Crow. This ordinance also stated that whites could not move into colored zones and that blacks could reside in white living quarters as servants. Senate Bill No. 1, the state's first piece of legislation, prevented colors from residing, traveling, and marrying outside their race.
Black Wall Street, Tulsa Race Riots, Part 1. The Tulsa Race Riot occurred on May 31st through June 1st, 1921. What has been described as the greatest but most hidden massacre on American soil began with the alleged assault of 17-year-old white female elevator operator Sarah Page. by 19-year-old black male shoe shiner Richard Rowland.
Black Wall Street, Tulsa, race riots. Angry white mobs, along with the law enforcement, bombed businesses, homes, and fleeing families. The entire Greenwood community was burned to the ground less than 24 hours. The massacre was intentionally omitted from local and state records. Whites and the government justified the massacre, saying they were preventing a Negro uprising.
Hello, Indian Trail scholars, faculty, friends, and parents. I am Mrs. Cunningham, and I am a fifth grade teacher here at Indian Trail Elementary. I serve on the program committee with other teachers. I want to take this time to congratulate our Indian Trail scholars on a job well done. Not only did you present the information, you told the story of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am so proud of you. You had your heart, you had passion, and you put everything you had into the program. Again, so proud of you. At this time, I want to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is retired Colonel James Sears of the United States Army. Colonel Sears continued to serve our great country. He is now an Army civilian chief at the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. He is an executive leader, strategic and logistic planner. He is also a motivational speaker, a writer, and he is also an artist with the spoken word. He's a published author, poet, professor, and he works in human resources. Colonel Sears, his passion is poetry and the spoken word. And at this time, Colonel Sears will do a spoken word poem on Black Wall Street. Thank you. Hello, Indian Trail.
Good evening, good afternoon, good afternoon. My name is James Sears, or otherwise called Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about history. Little Africa. Let me take you back in time and provide you with some knowledge. See, I'm going to tell you about a place that even some of your teachers didn't hear about while attending an expensive college. The time was 1870 to 1921 for your historical notation, and the north side of Tulsa, Oklahoma is the actual recorded location. See, North Tulsa was called Little Africa, as this name marked praise, the most affluent Black community in America. The witnesses were amazed. Jim Crow laws created all Black communities. See, we cannot deny this. And right down racial lines is how the United States was divided. Tulsa, Oklahoma was separated by the Arkansas River, but not equal by any tale. See, the white side was not nearly as prosperous while the Black community completely excelled. Little Africa contained Black doctors, politicians, or barons and PhDs, all Black businesses, farms, schools, and many Black attorneys, Black-owned restaurants, grocery stores, libraries, movie theaters, and places to sleep. So many prosperous businesses that Greenwood Avenue was called Black Wall Street. Yes, Black Wall Street, because that's just how much money flowed. I'm not making this up. It's research, and it's the truth history holds. Nepotism kept the money circulating within the community, even for loans. Everyone purchased from their neighbor, which kept the money coming right back home. Brotherly love and altruism were practiced, and crimes were very low. Morals were taught to all, and children actually did what they were told. Neighbors volunteered to help other neighbors in times of trouble. City families had about 5 children, while farming families had about double. White coal miners came to North Tulsa to work 72-hour-long shifts as well. So they too helped the pockets of these Black businesses to swell. In the 1800s, Little Africa had its own transportation system to assist them all. Blacks kept to themselves, took care of each other, so no citizen would fall. From Greenwood Avenue to Archer and Pine Streets, life was prosperous and grand. And if you take the first letters of those streets, GAP, you will see that's where they got the name of the Gap Band. Ask your parents about them. By 1921, over 100 Black millionaires, 6 even on airplanes. Black Wall Street was thriving and looking for more financial gain. But on the South Side, whites lived below the poverty line. And white servicemen returning for World War I, well, they also fell on hard times. So what happened to little Africa, one might say? Well, the Ku Klux Klan decided they were going to take that prosperity away. So on the 1st of June, 1921, envy, greed, and jealousy took control, and a Black Holocaust in America was about to unfold. This race riot was one of the most violent ever carried out on American people. It was the largest massacre of non-military Americans in history with no recorded equals. Within hours, hundreds of Black-owned businesses destroyed on the north side of town. 3,000 men, women, and children dead. Hundreds could not be found. Hundreds of homes and farms lit up the skies as they were burned to the ground, while good white Christian families just watched and stood around, witnesses to the KKK killing anyone whose skin color was brown. Little Africa was unlawfully lynched as this massacre went for 72 hours and from yard to yard until the white sheriff sent his Black deputy to call out the state's National Guard. The National Guard came to prevent the loss of more innocent lives, as death is what they saw. And the first order of business was to establish and enforce martial law. They stopped the killings, area bombings, disarming at the Klan home by doing their jobs, but they failed to prevent the loss of hundreds of businesses, stores, movie theaters, pawn shops, bakeries, banks, schools, and even a hospital laid in the wake of this hateful and angry mob. Restitutions never happened. Insurance claims dishonored, and Black voices silenced. Mass graves around the city hid this act of complete and senseless violence. Impacts today, African Americans have little nepotism. We've lost a lot of our financial power. We seldom support each other, and our money can leave the community within about a couple of hours. So consider this your history lesson for the day, and do not underestimate your economic might, because if you don't honor and protect what you have, it could be gone overnight. Thank you very much. That's Mr. Speaker.
Boys and girls, our special guest today is Elmer Lucille Allen. She is the first Black chemist at Brown-Forman in Louisville, Kentucky, and she currently is a local artist. Elmer Lucille Allen was born in Louisville, Kentucky. Her family consisted of her mother, father, and 3 siblings. They lived at 1724 West Chestnut Street from the time of her birth until the 1960s. She attended Western Elementary School, which is now Roosevelt Perry Elementary School, Madison Junior High School, which is now closed, and Central High School. All these schools were in the West End of Louisville. The students and staff at these schools were all African American. She then went on to attend Louisville Municipal College, a college of the University of Louisville for African Americans from 1949 to 1951. She received a Bachelor's of Science in General Education, focusing on chemistry and mathematics from Nazareth College, which is now Spalding University, in 1953. And then a Master's of Art in Creative Arts from the University of Louisville in 2002. After graduation in 1953, Elmer Lucille was unable to find a position in the field of science, so she took a civil service exam, moved to Indianapolis, and worked as a clerk typist at Fort Benjamin Harris. Later, she worked as a medical technician at General Hospital, Methodist Hospital, and community hospitals from 1953 to 1958. Upon her return to Louisville, she worked as a medical technician at Children's Hospital until she was hired as a research chemist at American Synthetic Rubber. When the lab closed, she worked as a research chemist at the University of Louisville Medical and Dental Center for Dr. Felix Bronner. While in this position, she applied for a junior chemist position at Brown-Forman in the Research and Development Laboratory. She was hired in April of 1966, and she was the first African American chemist and retired as a senior analytical chemist in 1997. She has been a community person for years. She has formed lots of coalitions. She has been recognized throughout our state. And here are a few pictures of her when she was in the lab at Brown-Forman, and some pictures of her artwork. So we're going to watch a short video about her, and then we will have her on the line.
Our world and everything in it, it's all connected. And when you dig deep, you find hidden links. How did a volcanic eruption save M&M?
Elmer Lucille Allen is 89 years young, but still hasn't started to even slow down. In today's Moments That Matter, we're looking at how this Louisville native understands the power of numbers.
She's known for the beautiful artwork, but Elmer Lucille Allen's knowledge runs deeper.
I am an African-American young lady, 89 years young. I retired from Brown-Forman in 1997 as the first African-American chemist at Brown-Forman. And I analyzed the raw products that go into making, which is corn, rye, and malt. And then, but you think about it, I came along during a time when, before computers came into existence, before analytical things became computerized.
She grew up in West Louisville. She attended Perry Elementary, Madison Junior High, and Central High School, graduating in 1949 with honors. Then attended Louisville Municipal College with a focus in chemistry and mathematics.
Louisville Municipal College was formed in 1931 by the University of Louisville for African American students, and it closed in June of 1951. And when they closed, I went to Nazareth, which is now Spalding University. And the reason why whites and blacks could not go to school together was because of the day law.
The mother of three, grandmother, and two-time cancer survivor, is a source of encouragement in trying times.
I could not find a job in Louisville as a chemist. So my first job was as a clerk typist in Fort Benjamin Harrison in Annapolis. And I tell everybody, a job is, whatever job you get is better than no job at all. And I look at these young people now, that they do not want to take a job that's not in their field, but they don't realize that you can learn a lot from whatever job that you're in.
The ceramic and fiber artist has a mural in the 900 block of South Jackson. In it, you can see Allen as a child celebrating after selling the most Girl Scout cookies.
When you talk about that mural you see my mother, my grandmother, and me when I was 9 years old.
Allen has been a member of the first African-American sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, for 70 years, and she's experienced a lot in her lifetime.
So you lived through the segregation?
Yes.
You lived through civil rights?
Yes.
You experienced voting rights for African Americans?
Yes.
You lived through multiple wars?
Yes.
You experienced and lived through the assassinations of Dr. King, President Kennedy, Medgar Evers, and Malcolm X.
Yes, I did. That was something else too. When Obama walked across that, when he took the inauguration. And when you sit down and think that now you had an African-American president, and now you have an African-American female vice president. And I never thought that I would see either one of those in my lifetime.
learn more about Elmer Lucille Allen and her upcoming art shows, text history to 502-582-7290. We will send the information straight to your phone and also links to our previous stories if you want to watch those again.
All right, boys and girls. So that was a short video about Elmer Lucille. We have her on the line with us now. Hello, Miss Allen. How are you? We appreciate your effort in joining us today. We do have pictures of you on the screen for the students to see. And we just want to get your input. They just watched a program that talked about Black Wall Street and how booming the Black community was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so just to kind of bring that back to Louisville, and you grew up and experienced all of what was going on Walnut Street at the time, and just give us your perspective of Black Louisville in the time where you grew up.
Let's go back. When I grew up in Louisville in the early 30s and early 40s, is that the neighborhood that I grew up in, I never actually saw any white folks. All I saw was Jews and African Americans. In my neighborhood, there was 3 churches, a Jewish drugstore, a Jewish grocery store, and all the neighbors, and the educational level within a neighborhood it could go from no education to someone who had a PhD. And on my street, you hear a lot of you all know about Western Library, or if you do not know about Western Library, Western Library is at 1010 Chester. And when I grew up, that was the only library that African Americans could go to. And the person who was there, who was over the library, was Thomas Blue Sr. And he lived across the street from me at 1723 Westchester, and I lived 1724. And on the corner of 17th and Chester was Mr. Mazik. And which now you think of Mr. Mazik. The school was named for him that used to be Jackson Junior High. And like I say, Warner Street was a street that I visited as a little girl, but I did not realize the importance of it until I got grown. And during that time, there were 3 African American movie houses: the Grand, the Lyric, and the Palace. The Grand and the Lyric was at 6th and Walnut Street, and the Palace was at 13th Street. And also, you had 2 African American insurance companies, and they were both located between 6th and 7th on Walnut. That was the Domestic Life Insurance Company and the Mammoth Life Insurance Company. And as you came down Walnut Street, there you would see barber shops, beauty shops, and a lot of places you thought might have been run by African Americans, but they were owned by whites. There was a fish place called the King Fish Company, and then then there was a bar called Top Hat, which was a bar, and they had all the musicians that came to Louisville, like at Derby time. Everyone, you saw all these cars and things coming down, and you thought these people lived in Louisville, but you realized that they had rented these cars and came to Louisville just for Derby. And so when you think about it, there were at that time people did not have telephones. And people did not own cars. We rode street cars. And you think about where did I live? I lived at 1724 Chestnut, but I also lived with my grandmother in Smoketown part-time. And at my house, we had electricity, hot and cold running water, and bathtubs like this. But when I stayed with my grandmother, she did not have electricity. She did not have indoor plumbing. And so you have to sit down and think about, I've come through a lot. I'm 89 years old. I'm talking on the telephone. I can use computers. And I was sorry I could not see you all today because I did not know how to use Google. There's so many technology has changed a lot of education was done in African American schools. Western Elementary, which is now Perry, Madison Junior High, which eventually became Russell, and Central High School. Central, there was two schools that African Americans could go to high school. It was Cabinet High School and Central High School. And that was located at that time at 8th and Chester. And so I give all the credit that I have now from the teachers that taught me how to respect myself, how to respect others, learn how to give, to share, and to be a friend at all times. And you said, well, how did you dress? Well, most of the clothes was bought from used clothes stores. So we could not try on clothes on 4th Street, which was the main place to shop when I was little. And so everything was used. I never went in to try on dresses or anything like that. So what else do you want to know about me?
Well, the students have submitted some questions, and students, I will let you know in advance that I will not be able to get through all of these questions, but I will get as many as I can. Someone wants to know, how did you become a chemist?
I often get asked. Well, I went to municipal college, and they had all survey courses, and so I took math, algebra and stuff like that. And then when I went to Nazareth for my last 2 years before college, all the courses I took was chemistry and math. And at that time at Nazareth, I could take 12 hours of philosophy and 12 hours of religion. And plus I took and some psychology and stuff like that in English. But so when I graduated, the majority of my credits were in chemistry. So I have a degree in general education, but with a major in chemistry and a minor in math. That's the only field other than when I came out, when I could not get a job as a clerk typist, I had worked in the science field all my life.
Okay. That question was from Amos Holt. And Kobe Burks wants to know about how many awards you have won, which you might not even be able to count them all.
I have no idea, because you get awards, and I have a lot of them I have donated to the Filson Club, but I always thank people for the awards, and if you get an award, it's something that you can it's a physical object. So you can take a picture with it, and it's something that you can share, and it's a lifetime. And but I cannot tell you how many I've won at all.
Okay. So I'm getting ready to show some pictures of your art. And hold on, let me go back. Okay. And so Bria Kellum wants to know about, how do you make the cloths that they are looking at?
I use silk law, and I use 100% cotton. Those are the two fabrics that I use.
Okay. And then what schools, let's see, Madeline Thornsberry wants to know, what schools do you recommend if you want to become an artist?
University of Louisville, you can go there. You can go to Spalding University. You can go to Kentucky College of Art and Design here in Louisville.
Okay. And then Miss Ashby's class had a bunch of questions. Amelia Willock wants to know, were you good at being a chemist?
Retired after 31 years at Brown-Forman, and I was the first African-American chemist at Brown-Forman in 1966, and I retired there in 1997 as a senior analytical chemist.
Oh, you were a good chemist, yeah. And Lily Pointer wants to know, did people treat you nicely because you were the first Black chemist?
What I told them is that I was hired to do the same job that they were doing, and so that was it. And you have to go in, and what I tell people right now, even though people And there I am. I'm Elmer Lucille. And say who you are, and that's all. And then they accept you for who you are. Do not put on the front.
That's great advice. Michaela Jennings wants to know where she can see your art. Where can she go to see some of your art?
It only has one cloth, one fiber piece, and teapot and gallery hurts, and that's at Preston and Caldwell.
Okay, and we can share that information with them later. And then Cameron Reed wants to know, are you going to write a book?
No, I haven't written a book, but there are about 4 or 5 books, and I will send you the books that I'm in.
Okay, we can do that. Jaden Jordan says he doesn't have a question. He just wants you to know that your artwork is amazing. Let's see. Stephanie Gonzalez Perez wants to know, what made you do art?
You know, we do art. No, everything that we see in the world is made of art. You think of, where do you live? In other words, it was drawn on paper, and someone built it up from the ground. So everything, we do art every day, but we don't actually call it art. So you think about construction, you think about the water lines, the pipes, everything that we do has to be created, but we don't call them art. We call them workers, you know, but they are actually artists per se, because they have to create that, you know. When you pick up a glass has been blown. Eventually, it begins with salt. It's not glass to begin with. It's crumbled glass, and then they can make it into whatever you want it to be. So if you want to look at glass being made, you can go to Glass Frames House. Glass Works, which is at 9th and Main. If you want to study glass, you can go to University of Louisville and study with Shay Rhodes, and he's a glass instructor there. He's an African American.
Okay. Shima Quataman wants to know, what is your favorite thing about art, and have you been able to meet any of the presidents?
Any of the presidents, but I love creating, and I'm 89, and I'm still a student at University of Louisville, and I was in class last night. But I enjoy creating, and you have to love to create. Create for me. I do not do commissions, because when you do commissions, you're doing what someone else wants. But when you create it for yourself, if it sells or doesn't, I don't create art to sell. I create art because I like it.
All right, that's awesome. Well, we want to thank you for joining us today and giving us a little bit of your time. And I will forward you a copy, of course, of this recording and the student presentation portion of it that you requested. And we just want to thank you again for your time. All right, that'll be awesome. Thank you. All right, bye-bye. All right, boys and girls. So we basically got to talk to a living legend here. And we're going to move right on to our kente cloth exhibit. And so Miss Stanley sent out the kente cloth lesson. And then we had some students that completed it. And these are their examples. And so we weren't able to fit them all on the exhibit, but we're going to show a few slides. So before Ms. Bird comes with the closing remarks, I do want to thank Elmer Lucille Allen for joining us today and spending some time with us and answering questions from our students. And now over to Ms. Bird.
Thank you for attending our Black History Month program. I hope you learned something new. We would like to thank our program committee, Miss Woolridge, Miss Curry, Miss Cunningham, Miss Fortson, Mrs. Stanley, Miss Justice, and Miss Carter, our wonderful teachers, and of course, our fantastic students. Thank you so much for all the hard work you did. And this concludes our program.